Welcome Year 7 to the first activity of learning how to use clay. In this activity, you will learn how to roll a clay slab and how to add surface decoration to that slab. Please collect the equipment on the list in front of you. Put your clay tile to the side and we're going to learn how to roll some coils. To roll your clay coils so that they're even, you'll need to get a small piece of clay, and then as you roll, you'll notice that my fingers spread out along the actual coil itself. And I roll where it's thicker in order to get a consistent thickness right along the coil. Now that I have 3 different thicknesses of coils, I'm going to show you how to join them onto the surface of the clay tile. I'll need my tools and I'll need water as well to do this. The Humble skewer has a blunt end and a sharp end, and I use them both quite differently. The modelling tool has 2 different ends as well, and they are useful for joining the coil onto the surface of the clay tile. The turning tool is most useful for actually carving back through the coloured slip. The main intention of this task is to teach you how to join your surface decoration successfully, and this tile is an opportunity for you to gain some kind of understanding and hopefully some mastery. With the skewer tool, I'm first going to draw onto the surface of my clay where I want my coils to actually be joined, and then I'm going to use the skewer to score or scratch the surface. You'll notice that I will actually make lines like little cross hatching like we use in drawing, along the line that I'm going to join the coil to. There is a little bit of water, please don't use too much, that I'll also use, which will help to make the clay stick to the surface of the tile. This is perhaps the hardest thing to do with joining clay. With the modelling tool, I'm going to be attaching the clay from the edge of the coil down onto the surface of the tile. Make the tool do the work and support the back of the coil with your other hand. Move the tile if that helps, but don't move it around too much because you'll actually stretch it. The purpose of joining is to make sure there's no visible or obvious join marks on your clay where the coil meets the tile. One way to know for sure if you've actually joined your coils properly is that as the clay tile dries, there'll be no cracks visible. If you've joined your coil very well on one side, you can actually get away with not joining it on the other side, but it must be joined really well. If you don't join very well or you don't trust yourself yet, turn it around and join it on the other side of the coil as well. To make a really good smooth join, use a damp cloth or a damp sponge. Put the sponge in the water, squeeze it out so there's not excess water because you don't want to drown your clay, you'll ruin your work that way. Then run the sponge along the join, making sure you use your other hand to support the shape and form of your coil. Use your modelling tool or your fingers to get into areas that you didn't do a good job with a sponge. Now join the other side of your coil, making sure there's no visible join marks. Now add your second coil or third coil, whatever you're up to. Remember, start first by scratching or scoring the surface with your skewer, going in several different directions, and a little bit of water to help the coil stick to the surface of the clay tile. Now that I have both coils successfully attached, I'm going to introduce some more surface decoration to the surface of the clay tile. Now I'm going to create a whole stack of little tiny clay balls and attach those to the surface of the clay. And then I will use the skewer to incise or scratch into the surface of the clay more decoration. Remember, whenever we're attaching anything to the surface of clay, you need to scratch or score the surface of the clay with lines and then add some water so it'll stick the clay. Then join whatever it is you're putting on very, very well. This product is called Clay Slip, and we put this onto clay normally when it's leather hard or heading towards being dry. I unfortunately am applying it when the clay's too wet and it's very streaky. I come back later on and I put it on after 24 hours of sitting and drying. Using the skewer again to add more surface decoration. Who would have thought a skewer could be so versatile? Now that I have the surface decoration on the surface of the clay, I'm just going to put it aside for 24 hours to let it dry off a bit. I've left my clay tiles dry for 24 hours and now it's a lot drier to put on the slip. You can see that I've added extra slip and now I'm about to carve into the large space in the bottom right hand corner.